All right, Bears fans, welcome back and bear down. So excited to be with you guys again today. What a historic day we had yesterday. How the crap did that happen? How did it come together that we got exactly what we wanted with Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze, now paired up for at least the next 5 years, probably a decade, probably more, in this league to be the face of the franchise, to set historic numbers for Bears players, both in quarterback and wide receiver position. This is going to be a lot of fun to follow and a lot of fun to be a part of. So thank you for those who tuned in yesterday. We had a really fun draft party. I'm going to try to get to pieces of chopping that up if I can. There's more important things, though, right now with what we have coming up, which is why I wanted to get you guys this video. This is going to be an all-encompassing breakdown of the two different positions we can pick here in the third round. I know we got the second round to go ahead of us. It's possible we trade up, but Ryan Poles has made an emphasis about how he likes the draft capital he has for next year, and I think he's got such a good position. I don't see us trading up. I see us holding firm and having Ian Cunningham there. Hold back, Ryan. Hold back. Don't trade up with number 9. Don't trade up with number 75 because there's a lot of good options at 75. So let's get into it right now. I want to show you guys what's available both on offense and on defense because there are a lot of players that could really help this team. Okay, so first, let's break down where the Bears currently stand. So this was before the draft. Obviously, we know 1-1 and 1-9 have gone. Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze now. Those were our two biggest needs, so I love that they got filled. On the left side, you see the starters. Those were our two biggest needs, and now they are filled. Next, most important, you see right there in the middle, offensive tackle for a swing tackle and defensive end. Now, Ryan Poles made comments at the Combine how this is a deep offensive tackle class and how they could pick someone later, but defensive end, we don't really have someone that can step in if both Montez Sweat or DeMarcus Walker get hurt or either of them goes down. We don't really have a great option. Now, where we are in the draft, is there really someone that could be a plug-and-play starter? Not really, but there's a lot of really good quality options for who could fill in and who wouldn't be a detriment. And there's still players out there like Carl Lawson we could take flyers on, and I really actually want to see that now. But then on depth, we still need defensive interior, guard, a third tight end, and a center. Now, there's options for that, and center might be the most important actual starter position of where we have weakness right now. If you look at this team, well, you can consider right guard possibly too, or was Nate Davis a fluke? Because he played really well the year before, but center is really our weakest position. Yes, we've upgraded significantly from where we were last year. Coleman Shelton is a middle of the pack to mid to lower pack, and Ryan Bates is a very solid backup. So we've got a decent advantage to where we had last year. But if any of these guys get hurt, we're really struggling. Darnell Wright, Braxton Jones especially, we need a swing tackle. With Matt Pryor and Jake Kierhan did come in and they can compete for that position, but I really see them as a depth piece and probably Matt Pryor winning that spot because he's versatile to play both left tackle and left guard or either guard. But he's not really the swing tackle you want coming in a pinch to be able to be starter quality. And all these guys at the bottom, I see Larry Borum getting cut. I see Tyree Carter getting cut. So we don't have a lot of depth. We have better depth than last year by adding Ryan Bates, Matt Pryor, and Jake Kierhan, and a better starter than we had last year with Coleman Shelton, but not a long-term piece especially. So we could theoretically come up for one of the top centers that are still left on the board. Well, let's look at our top 30 from last week when we went through the end of where the Bears ended up meeting with people. Here's the top 30s, and you can see the red ones are the ones that have been drafted. So Jackson Powers-Johnson and Zach Frazier are your two highest still left on the board. And then there's a lot of really good players left. I mean, we could theoretically go after a tight end like Ben Sennett if he's available, but I don't really see that being the biggest option. And then one of the people I've overlooked, and I went down to the Big 12 Pro Day in Dallas and witnessed Austin Booker run his 40-yard dash and some of his drills. And I wasn't, overly impressed, but I wasn't under-impressed either. He didn't do anything bad or good. It was just fun to kind of experience the atmosphere, but he's someone that really could be a target here on day 3. So let's adapt this and change to kind of look at offense and defense. Which players are left? And then a consensus ranking, and I just compiled this ranking this morning from a combination of Draft Buzz, from all of the ones that are on Draft Buzz that you guys have probably seen, that CBS, NBC Sport, all the ESPN, all of them. And then Walter Football and NFL Mock Draft Database and then PFF as well, and I combined them, and these are the overall rankings of where they have all of these guys at. And I only did the ones that kind of, I want to see someone fall into our laps. I want to see someone at 75 not have to trade up, but if we do trade up, it could be somewhere in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and we'd still have to give up more. So I don't see us doing that. So let's see if one of these guys fell to us, where they could be. And on offense, we've really got just a couple options here. Jackson Powers-Johnson, Zach Frazier for center. So I don't really see us going center. At this point, I kind of want to see how things go with Coleman Shelton. And if he's not panning out, that's where you really, really follow Connor Williams and his recovery from his injury, because he's made it known he does not want to medically retire. And he's the most elite in the league when it comes to the center position. He's really, really special. So if we could sign him for a cheap deal for the last 6 games of the season, come in for $5, $6, $7 million, and then sign a future contract of $12 million a year, $13 million a year, $14 million a year. I mean, that's perfect to be able to have 4 or 5 years to team up with Caleb Williams, start his career off. And it's not like Connor Williams is old. He's only 26 years old. So I don't see us hitting the center position here. I know that's what a lot of fans want, and we're kind of enamored with it, but I think it's just out of reach. Now, the one that I'm seeing here, Patrick Paul, I have no idea how he's fallen so far down these draft boards. And I honestly think this is one of those situations where these databases are just out of whack. They're just out of sync. They don't. I've been mocking Patrick Paul in the 40s ever since the start of this, and you've already seen 8 offensive tackles come off the board. So one of 2 ways could go. A team that really wants an offensive tackle is going to come up and get one here at the beginning of the second round, or they could start sliding because teams have already taken their offensive tackles. But you heard rumors about the Chiefs taking taking specifically Patrick Paul in the first round, at the end of the first round before the draft. So, you never know how these things go. I don't necessarily think this is where they'll land, but we're going to highlight some of these guys because of where they're consensusly on these draft boards. And these are guys the Bears could end up with. And we know that Kieran Amajabi came in for a top 30 visit. And on this list, the only ones left that came in for top 30 visits were Jackson Powers-Johnson, Zach Frazier, Kieran Amajabi. Now, Blake Fisher was Notre Dame, but I still didn't see him come in, so it makes you wonder if there was a reason they didn't have him come in. And then you see on the defensive side, we shift over to the defensive side. Jazon Newton fell all the way out of the first round. Who knows why? But he was projected to be 16th overall, and then you get Braden Fisk, who I really like at 42, Chris Jenkins, Adiza Isaac, Chris Braswell, Marshawn Nealand, who I'm hoping is the one that drops, because for defensive end, I really like Marshawn Nealand a lot. But Chris Braswell, Adiza Isaac, if any of those fail, a third rounder, a guy that can learn and rotate in, perfect situation for the Bears. And then Austin Booker at 77 is someone we know we did a top 30 visit with as well. So let's look at some of these guys. We're going to post their RAS scores, then I'll post the sack hit hurry is just a pressure. So this is plays between when they allow. On the offensive side, it's when they allow a sack hit or hurry, so a pressure, another word of saying pressure. And then on the defensive side, it's how many plays between when they generate a pressure, a sack, a hit, or a hurry. And then I've taken a little snippet of all these guys from PFF and their grades, and this is why Jackson Powers-Johnson is so special. He's such an elite athlete on every aspect of it. His 2-year average, 213.33 sacks, hits, or hurried between plays that he allows, which means like once a year, like never. So he never allows anything to happen. And he is 29th overall consensus ranking. He's out of the first round now. So someone's going to snag him who needs a center in the second round. I don't see the Bears trading up for him. So we're going to run through these centers pretty quick. Same thing with Zach Frazier. An elite athlete, 46.5 plays between a sack, hit, or hurry. I mean, you watch him, and he creates the pancakes. He's just a beast. So I love him as well, but 43, if he slips into the 50s, I can see that being a situation where the Bears say, okay, we've got our starting quarterback of the future. We've got a wide receiver group that's phenomenal. We've got a decent guard on each side. We've got solid tackles on each side. More than decent with Tevin Jenkins. I mean, if Tevin stays healthy, he's going to be one of the most elite guards in the NFL. Definitely top 10 in my opinion. It's just whether he can stay healthy. So if we've got that whole scenario, and then you're sitting here and Zach Frazier falls into the 50s, that's a situation where you absolutely could trade up from 75 into the 50s and give up next year's second and get your center that's going to be there with your quarterback for the next decade. I mean, that's just an ideal scenario if that happens, but it's going to take Zach Frazier falling. I don't see any other scenario where the Bears really trade up, because after these centers, you can hold back and wait till the third, fourth round, and really might be a situation where we wait for Connor Williams or even draft an undrafted or pick an undrafted free agent at the end of the draft. There's a lot of options. A lot of things could happen there, but really coming up is just for these two guys. So let's get into the offensive tackles now. You see there's Braxton Jones, Darnell Wright, and then not really a good swing tackle. So if we go through our offensive tackles, the ones that are left, you've got Kingsley Suamataya. I don't know exactly how to say their names, guys. I'm doing my best. But his height, they've got him at 6'4" as an issue. I don't see that being 2.53 worthy on RAS, but that's how they grade these things. But still, an overall RAS of 9.4. He is a beast of a man whose 2-year sack hit hurry allowed between plays 31.1. You can see his pass blocking is elite, but he struggled a little bit at the top there if you look at his PFF snippet that I did. 52.9 on the run block, so maybe a little bit of work there, but pass blocking to protect right off the bat day one. I think he's a great pickup if the Bears wanted to pick him up as their option. He right now is scheduled to be around the 60th pick. You saw him as early as the late 30s, early 30s in some of these mock drafts. So consensus, he's right around 60 right now. And like we said, if teams say we have to have a tackle, they can start snagging these early. Or already 8 tackles off the board, teams could say, well, we've already got our tackle, or we're not in a rush to pick a tackle. Just depends on how this starts flowing. And one of the things I think you're going to start seeing today in this second round is all those defensive backs start coming off the board. And that's great for the Bears because it's going to let some of these offensive players or offensive linemen and defensive linemen start dropping down. These defensive play. This is known as, number 1, a wide receiver class. Number 2, a defensive back class, and then number 3, a tackle class. In my opinion, I mean, you can debate the last two. A lot of people think this is deeper in defense or an offensive tackle, which is why so many went in the first round. But there are a lot of good defensive backs in this class, so you're going to see them start coming off the board a lot more in the second round here. All right, next we got a guy that came in for the top 30 for the Bears, Kieran Amajabi. You see his pass blocking and his run blocking are both very elite, and I think that's why they fell in love with him. 6'5", 323 pounds. Didn't have all of his testing done. In fact, he only played 4 games this last year, but everything with him seems to be healthy now. That's probably a huge reason the Bears brought him in for his top 30 to make sure everything checks out, make sure he's worth the investment. But if he is, only 1 sack, hit, or hurry every 42.9 plays. So 42, but he came from Yale, so small school. So it's one of those things like with Braxton Jones, came from a tiny school. Does the level of competition measure up? You see the defensive rating of what he played against right there at the bottom from the NFL draft buzz was 34%. So not really the best competition. Does that translate to him being able to have success? Well, it did pretty well for Braxton Jones, and who better to come in and compete and to create that energy, and iron sharpens iron, than someone like him where they can compete for that starting job and the swing tackle job. Well, either way, we'll have a solid swing tackle if we can get Kieran Amajabi, who is right now projected at 67. So this is a situation where we could trade up a small, tiny amount and maybe give away one of those future 5th rounders, future 6th rounders. I don't know. It's only 8 spots down in the 70s to the 675 to 67. Or do we just hold off and wait because there are other options as well, including like here, Blake Fisher, who had a solid year, pretty even killed pass blocker. 2-year sack, hit, or hurry between 24.1. So nothing that blows your socks off, but would be a solid swing tackle. And right now he's projected at 73. All right, next up is the one that doesn't make sense to me. He's an elite pass blocker. Needs a little bit of work on run blocking. But to me, he was projected, like I said a second ago, he was projected by many that the Chiefs had fallen in love with him, that they were going to take him at the end of the first round. So he's a solid blocker, solid at protection. And he's projected right now at 85, which I don't think this one's accurate. If any of them aren't accurate, I'm going to predict right now he's going in the 40s. He's going to go in the 40s, maybe to the 50s if he sneaks down a little bit. I don't see the Bears having a shot at Patrick Paul. He's one of my favorite players early on. If we were able to generate a second-round pick out of a trade down, but that's not happening, and I don't see him falling to us. But it's good that he's still on the board because then it takes another team that needs a tackle can take him, and then maybe Kieran falls to us. All right, let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. Now, you see from this, our biggest weaknesses right there are the defensive end and defensive interior, specifically that we don't really have a 4th defensive interior. Byron Cowart was brought in. I don't see him sticking to the 53-man roster. Maybe he's motivated. Maybe he's going to generate enough to be able to stick. He hasn't had the best start so far to his career. And then Jacob Martin, to me, a little undersized, a little like Yannick Ngakoue, but not as quick and not as good a hand fighting ability. That chop move he doesn't have refined down. So he's a depth piece to me to replace Dominic Robinson. We really need a backup defensive end that can rotate in with DeMarcus Walker. Khalid Kareem and Jacob Martin just don't scream to me that this is a team to be feared. DeMarcus Walker and Montez Sweat, 1-2 punch, they do. And especially at the end of the year when DeMarcus Walker had Montez Sweat here, he stepped his game up to be absolutely NFL starter quality defensive end. Without Montez Sweat, no, not so much. Not even close. So we need to build this way. I really think this is where we need to take this pick at 75 is get someone we can develop and have to be able to keep going. And then next year, still in the first round, that's got to be our pick is defensive end next year in the first round. We got to keep building the trenches. We've got to make it happen. All right, let's go through the guys that are available. This is never going to happen. We're not going to get Johnny Newton. We're Jerzon Newton. We're not going to get him. It's just crazy to even think so. He was projected around 16. He'll go right off the bat here. There's going to be some wide receivers come off the board, probably Adonai Mitchell going number 1. And then you're going to see some defensive backs, and you're going to see Johnny Newton right here at the very beginning. So he's not even worth spending the time on. I like him a lot. He's just not going to happen, especially since he fell in the first round. I would love to have him, but it's just not going to happen. Next, Braden Fisk, who for some reason on mock draft simulators, when you're on PFF, PFN, he falls to 75. I don't understand it. And if teams are feeling the same way and they're just not in love with him, maybe it's because he had a better 2022 than he had a 2023. But the whole Florida State team kind of hit a little hiccup after their quarterback went down, and I don't know because he's quality. I mean, he's a little undersized for defensive interior, but not much. I mean, to me, Braden Fisk would be excellent if we added him to the Bears. Absolutely stellar. So, and he's flexible. He could play on a couple different spots along the front of the line there. 9.89 RAS score. To me, if he falls somehow, you snag him. He's not worth trading up to, but at 42 is where he's projected to go around right now, consensus. But like I said, for some reason, these simulators have him dropping down to 75, maybe a third of the time that I'm running them. Maybe a third. So it's not likely to happen, but if he somehow fell to 75 to us, oh, yeah, that would be a dream. All right, next up, Chris Jenkins, to me, has a lot of upside potential. They have him showing the yellow there for a little undersized. I don't think so at all. And he had a great season this last year with Michigan. Not a ton of sacks, but a lot of pressures. So I just don't see he's going to fall as well. He's projected to go around the 50s. We won't spend too much time with these guys right here up the front because I just don't see him falling to us. Same with Adisa Isaac. Now, a lot of people do have him fall into the third, around a 9 RAS score. He's a smaller size defensive end as well. To me, I don't love those smaller size ones. This class did not have a lot of the big, beefy defensive ends, but he's very quick. Very good production this last year. 9 sacks, 33 overall pressures on only 208 pass plays. So, he's a good option. I just don't see him falling as well. He's projected right now at 53. Same with Chris Braswell, 6'3", 251. Really good production. 13 sacks overall, 56 pressures on 309 plays. So a sack hit hurry every 5.5 plays. So that's phenomenal production. So as far as production goes, great. He's projected right now to go around 55. Now, look at how many we're going through. There's a lot. And if these defensive backs are going to come off the board, if these tackles are coming off the board, if some of these positions are going to start falling, and the defensive line, the trenches, we could have one of these guys fall to us. Now, one of the guys everyone's falling in love with now is Marshawn Kneeland. And you're going to see a big variance from him because you're seeing some people saying he could go as early as the late 30s. Some people saying all the way into the 90s. And if he fell to the Bears, I would run that card up and I would snag him in a heartbeat. Yes, small school coming from Western Michigan, but a very good productive player and very good measurables. 270 pounds, almost 6'3", 9.08 RAS score with good arm length. Very good arm length. So I like Marshawn Kneeland a lot. If he's right now my hope that he falls to 75. And he's slated to, on consensus, like I said, it's such a wide variance with him. Some people saying all the way to the late 30s. some into the 90s. So he's consensus at 64 right now. But this is the one that I would like to fall to us. You see his PFF grade, 89.7. I mean, that's phenomenal. Yes, lesser competition. Again, Western Michigan, lesser competition. But this is a guy that I would love to see fall to us. Next. Okay. I'm going to do my best. Rook or Hor-O. O. Okay. I tried. I tried my best. Rook or Hor-O. We did it! Woo! We got his name. Great size. 6'4", almost 300 pounds, 9.92 RAS score. Again, variance on him. I don't understand why. Great pressure from the insides. Great 3-tech. If we're really looking to have that 3-tech, the 1-2 punch, and be able to work a little bit more with Gervon Dexter on the outside from the 5 or the 7 or even all the way out on the edge, Rook would be a great player for us to bring in. I don't understand the variance on him as well, but most places have him in the 40s and 50s, but some places have him lower as well. So his average score is around, or average mock consensus where he would go is around 65. I don't know if I agree with that. Now we're going to skip a couple. We're just going to go to ones that I think could fall. And then Austin Booker is one that we had for a top 30. So I'm going to put him on here. Lower RAS score though, but good production this last year in the Big 12 or Big 10, Big 12, in the Big 12. 12 games, 82.2 RAS score, 237 pass rush plays, 9 sacks, 27 hurries, 2 hits. So good production. I don't know exactly the reason why they do all top 30 visits, but I know he got a top 30 visit. So it's worth noting as we go into the draft that he did get a top 30 visit and he was scheduled at 77. So overall, here's some of them. You can see I can skip a little bit because there's so many defensive players. I skipped Jonah Ellis, Brandon Dorless, Michael Hall, Braylon Trice, T'Vondre Sweat, just for the sake of keeping this video a little bit shorter. But any of them, Michael Hall could be a great fit for us too. Braylon Trice, T'Vondre Sweat, who I don't know if there's character issues with what he went through with his recent law trouble. So I don't know if that's someone we would avoid completely, or if the third round, that's fine. But Jonah Ellis played for Utah, had a really good year as well. So there is so many options here. That's why I think one of these guys will drop to us. One's going to drop to us at 75. So that's something to keep an eye on. And this is what the Bears did last night. They went back to their war room. They went and discussed this. They went over all these players, and they broke down and probably did a very shortened version of what he did before with Pods and said, okay, what do we got here? Who do we got following? Let's reorganize our board. Or maybe it didn't need reorganizing because they've spent weeks and months doing this, and not much got affected by the first round. Okay, so here we are. This is where we had it organized. This is what we've got right now. This is who we've got coming. This is where it's falling. Do we still feel the same way? And now they're prepared for day 3. Are they going to trade up? I'm going to say right now, no. I know a lot of fans want that trade up for maybe a Zach Frazier or someone like that, or Brandon Fisk if he falls a little bit. I can understand it. I don't see him using next year's draft capital with that many defensive players that we just went over. So there's a guide to who we can look at today. I don't expect a lot of action. I could see Ryan Poles doing his 2022 style draft with number 122, unless someone falls there as well, like a Mason Smith if we love him, or a tight end like Cade Stover or Ben Sennett if one of them fall. But for 122, I can see us trading down and say trade 122 for 130 and 190, and then trade 130 again for 158 and 202. Something like that. That could be Ryan Poles' type of MO. But as of right now, I see us taking number 75. And that was a pretty comprehensive list of who you can expect to be looking at on the offensive side and the defensive side of the ball. So we won't keep it much longer. Lots to go over today. I know the press conference is going on right now. It's probably over by the time I release this with Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze and the excitement there. It's so freaking exciting to be a Bears fan right now. Hope you guys enjoy this. Hope you enjoy the second and third rounds. And until next time, as always, bear down.